Hana means family.
If we can go back in time and restart our fitness journeys, what would we do differently?
We spent the last 15 years training clients, doing their research, looking at the science, and more importantly, over 20 years training, right? Something like that?
Training ourselves, yeah.
Training ourselves,
absolutely.
training, for life.
Each other's.
Training each other's. And today we're going to discuss how it would be if we were to start today from scratch. So stick around. What's up, guys? Victor and Julian here, your favorite podcasters in the Miami Lakes area. Controversial? Maybe. We're here in Beef
Definitely the best.
I agree. We're here in Beef Miami Lakes, the best place to come work out, have a cafecito, enjoy the AC, luxuries of life.
All right, before we get into what we would actually change, I want to talk about what we did. Like, what were those first few years starting? What have we been doing for the last 20 years? And I'm a little conflicted by saying, like, if I could go back, I would change X, Y, Z, because, that old cliche about if I didn't make those mistakes.
Yeah.
No, but it's true, though. If I didn't do a lot of things wrong, I wouldn't have gone down the rabbit holes to change it and optimize and learn better ways to do it. I feel like that is a way that we all learn. We just learn through experience and failing and doing something better. So that's kind of like my conflict.
Yeah, and we're also a little older, so we're not in the age that right now, like, you can go on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok and find a decent workout routine. We're kind of the age that you're doing what your strength coach tells you in PE in high school.
Coach.
I had
That guy was not a
weightlifting.
strength
I had
coach.
weightlifting in high school. Like,
I
that
don't
was
know
a joke.
he was, but he was
That
not
guy
a
was a
strength
joke.
coach. Let's not give him that title.
Our strength coach, my strength coach, would try to fight the high school students.
Okay. Anger issues much?
Yeah, that guy had some pretty severe issues.
Maybe he listens to this podcast, though. He's a local guy.
I hope you do, man. And if you do, I
Hope you do.
I hope life has gotten better for you.
Aww.
Because he was kind of, you could tell he's a misanthrope.
Frustrado.
Frustrado. So I think we're the generation that had to do a little bit more research, had to make more mistakes than you could just learn from. Nowadays, you can go online, you could ask ChatGPT, you could take all these steps to make sure you're doing something properly.
Although I will say, in our defense, like, the kids nowadays, they have TikTok and all that stuff, but with as much good information as there is out there, there's a lot of misinformation.
True.
A lot of people steering you the wrong way. So one of the positive things I can say is, like, we had T Nation. For the real OGs, they know what that means.
Bodybuilding.com too.
We're not quite old enough to, like, be reading bodybuilding magazines. That's, like, way old school. We were, like, the first generation with the internet. And with the internet came a website called T Nation, aka TestosteroneNation.com. You can imagine. I know it sounds super cringy, but it was actually
good. Had good
legit.
articles.
Yeah, it was like the best of the best strength coaches would write articles, in-depth articles about everything training or nutrition related, bodybuilding, strength training, powerlifting. So that's where I would get the majority of my information from, and then I would test it with myself. All right, this person's telling me that this workout, this is the science, it kind of makes sense, and let me just go and try it. Let's do this 8-week program, which I think is something that these kids nowadays don't do. They don't even stick around for 8 weeks, 6 weeks. Like, do this actual program.
Yeah.
And something I want to talk about later, why that is something that I would do if I can go back in time, is stick to a program longer.
Yeah, and it's the same, like you just said, there's so much misinformation. There's also all of these like clickbaity posts, which I can't stand, like, oh, do this exercise instead of hip thrust. Like, no, like,
or the only way to grow your arms.
Red thing on regular bicep curls, you should be doing this kind. Like, no, come on. Like, there's so much nuance and so many things that you could do. It's not always, black and white.
Yeah, the other thing I want to say is that some of the mistakes, could you even call them mistakes that I made? Like, for example, some of my training protocols led to injuries. Now that could be related. That could be related to the protocol, or that could just be like I was working out like crazy and not focusing on recovery. But because I got injured, like, when you get injured, it humbles you and you have to start thinking about your training. What could I do differently? Is there a smarter way to train? So I think that without getting injured, without making those quote unquote mistakes, would I have even tried to optimize my training? Like, if everything's going well for you, why change anything? So again, everything is with a grain of salt, considering that I do appreciate all the training. And we haven't even talked about what the training was. But
no, but we will now. We're just giving you some background information. Another little bit of background, a little funny story is, it's not really funny. Julian obliterated his back during a back squat one time. This is not the funny part. And the doctor told him, you're not going to be able to play sports. You're not going to be able to work out. He said sports ever.
At 25.
At 25 years old. 12 years ago, something like that. Oh, shit, I just revealed your age. And there's the last name.
They're going to be like, I thought he was 45.
It looks like shit. And then literally the next day, I think it was, I found him. I don't know if you guys have seen Family Guy.
I found
I
him.
found him. You know the Family Guy dog that's legs don't work and he's crawling like and his little legs are dragging? That's how I found Julian crawling from pull-ups. We had one of those bars we put on the door. From pull-ups to the floor, crawling to do his pushes. I opened my door and was like, what the hell are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be resting? It's like, I'm doing a
No
workout.
excuses. Work out even if
So you
you're
see,
messed up back.
these are the things that, I'm sure he's glad he went through it though. I'm sure
Yeah.
it taught you a thing or two.
Yeah, and again, it's like if I didn't have that injury, go to this spinal surgeon that told me you can never play sports again, you shouldn't be lifting weights, then I wouldn't have gone down the rabbit hole because I figured that didn't sound right to me.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Ever again?
And sure enough, like the guy was just this old school guy. He was a surgeon, so he thinks like a surgeon. Oh, I need to fix things with a scalpel, and unfortunately, he wasn't well versed on like the literature. And now we know that if your back is messed up or you have some sort of issue like that, strength training can only help you, of course, if you do it in a smart way. So not only did I play sports again and train, but I feel my training is a lot better. I won the. I feel a lot better than I pretty much ever did. Of course, I have my aches and pains, but I have a lot more. I can manipulate my workout routine around that, and I have a way more well-rounded routine. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't go through that process.
I also think it showed you that there's some exercises that aren't for everyone. And I think that's something that people don't realize nowadays. Like, you have to squat, you have to deadlift. There's some clients that we don't program certain exercises for because it just doesn't feel right.
I don't do either of those.
And that's fine. And that's fine. That's why your glutes look like this. I mean, that?
Hey, my glutes look great naked.
Let's see.
Wife,
I'll post a picture
comment
right
below,
here.
wife.
I'll post a picture right here.
I'm gonna speed through like our workout experience. So we started technically working out when we were like in elementary school. We were doing like pull-ups and push-ups and calisthenics and running. But yeah, that's obviously way back. And then I started really working out seriously when I was like 15. I would just work out in our mom's backyard.
What motivated you to do that?
The same thing that motivates most young men: getting girls.
Women.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be jacked.
Yeah, you want to be jacked.
I don't understand the guys that don't. So
it's such an easy, like, you don't even have to say anything. I remember at some point you were like ripped, and girls just come up to you like, oh my God, and women can touch a man in a appropriate
Also, let's be honest. Some guys have other traits that they don't, quote unquote, need to look a certain way. And then others, like, you have to understand yourself. I was always more introverted. I don't have the gift of gab. So I was like, all right, well, I got to do other things. So I've acquired skills. I have a certain set of skills.
To deal with people like you. Plus, you have this
where, like you
train wreck of a
said,
face.
you didn't have to say much.
Yeah.
But anyway, working out at 15 consistently. I can honestly say I've been consistent ever since 15. I've never really dropped off. And then, as I got into like my early 20s, I started studying exercise physiology. So now my programs were getting smarter. I was working with like the program directors and stuff at my school would give me advice. I never worked with a trainer, and that's going to be something that we're going to talk about.
What school?
FIU at first, and then UM for grad. But here's the thing that I'm proud of the fact that we both did is I would pick a program and I would stick with it for whatever amount of time.
8 weeks, 6 weeks.
I don't really know anybody that does that these days, especially like younger people. It's like you have to do that because how else are you going to know that something works? Something doesn't work because you did it once, or you did it for a week. You need to give it time to actually work. So I would do like a 6-8 week program and then, on to the next program, consistently.
And I think a lot of people nowadays don't even have a program. They just go into the gym and like, oh, it's leg day, it's chest day, it's back day. And like, there's no progressive overload. There's no plan. Even if you're not seeing gains, you just keep doing it, keep beating the dead horse.
They'll take influencer A's leg workout that looks really cool. Try this leg workout, and that's my workout for today. But then tomorrow they'll try influencer B's arm workout, and now you're doing 2 completely different programs, just
different
some
methodologies,
random thing that somebody threw out there. And if there's one thing I want to get out is that you can't just take. There's no such thing as one good workout. A workout is a part of a bigger plan, a workout program that's completely dependent on your goals, on your history, on so many factors that you can't just take an influencer's, here's my leg workout, do it,
have fun.
So the other thing I want to say is we would have training notebooks. So I was actually writing things down in an actual notebook. Kids are like, what's that? So that's one thing that, like you said, how do you know that you're progressively overloading? How do you know that you're getting stronger? Well, you write things down. You ensure, again, T-Nation would say things like, okay, if you did this much weight, add 5 pounds next week, add 10 pounds next week. And you literally go up there and you have to add the weight. It's such a good motivational tool because you know you have to lift heavier every week.
T Nation had little logs too and stuff. They would have little logs that you can print out, a little table, and they had calculators to calculate your 1RM. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty ahead of their time.
It was the who's who of the fitness world was writing on there too. It wasn't like schmucks.
No. It was like people that nowadays are like the biggest names.
Legends.
And strength training and coaches.
So then fast forward to when I really peaked at like being at my best shape. I was already a personal trainer. I was working out with 2 other trainers, and we were just going in there and like savages, dude. Like it was, we're following a program, but I'm pushing the hell out of you. It was kind of like that, YouTube alpha motivational type of video vibe where we'd go in there and just like, all right, dips with 100 pounds, go. You can say all you want about that, but that's when I saw my best results because you have 3 guys pushing the hell out of each other, going heavier, going to failure. Things like, nowadays, you can say it's not the smartest way to train, but will it get you results? Absolutely.
And it's something that the old bodybuilders will tell you it's tried and true. Like, you're pushing yourself every single day. You're hitting your, not max, but you're going literally to failure. I remember we would train when I would join you guys, we'd go to failure.
Every time.
To your legs are buckling, to your arms can't extend. And
let's face it, when you're 21, you could do that. You could beat up your body. You don't even have to sleep that well and then go and hit another body part the next day.
Drink C4 and get out there.
Yeah, some NO Explode, some Jack 3D. They don't know about that. And then that's when you came in, when you were probably in your late teens?
Yeah.
And I would just bring you to the gym and you were doing those same savage workouts.
Yeah.
And you gained a bunch of, you were thin. You were like, like 130 pounds?
I weighed 130 pounds and I went up to, I think, 150.
140 something, 150 of pure muscle.
That's what they say.
5% body fat.
That's what the rumors are.
You just kind of, I did a lot of the experimenting and then I would just take you under my wing.
Yeah, which is, obviously super convenient for me. I didn't have to make the same mistakes, even though I'm more of the wild child of the two. So now I do have my little aches and pains. I'm also in my 30s, so I think anybody that's in their 30s that doesn't have aches and pains, you're a liar. And I'm also, after that, I think we started hitting calisthenics pretty hard.
Yeah, so after that, we didn't talk about that. We were doing exclusively weight training.
Yeah, bodybuilding machines.
Look, the whole point working out as a guy in your early 20s is like, I just want to get jacked. I don't give a shit about my health,
longevity,
my cardio. As a matter of fact, I avoided cardio most of the time.
That's not true. We played basketball a lot.
Yeah, but no, when I was like really going hard in my weight training, I would actually do sprints. I'll give myself that. I did 2 days a week of sprints because everything was high intensity, fast twitch muscle fibers. I don't want any of that marathon runner look. No. I want to be jacked,
building power,
which is not necessarily true. We'll talk about that. But so then we got into calisthenics because this was like the Instagram days where calisthenics started becoming popular, which we didn't even know what the hell that word meant.
Yeah.
And it turned into something else. Calisthenics is like this age-old just
body
weight movements. But the new age calisthenics is like some dude doing some crazy stuff on a bar.
Muscle ups,
360 muscle up, clap, pull-ups, crazy things involving usually like just a bar or your body, handstand push-ups. So we got into that, and then we were doing like 3 days a week of calisthenics and 2 of weight training. Again, we were training a lot. We had a lot of volume.
Yeah.
So that's when we became a little bit more well-rounded, and we were doing our cardio a little bit too. And then after that, it's just been like maintenance phase. I would say after that, the injuries for me started coming, and it was one thing after another. Literally, it was the back, then it was the knee, and then every injury set me back to the point where I could never quite get to that peak. When I was like 24, I could never quite get there because my knee just didn't let me anymore. I couldn't lift heavy. My back just didn't feel right when I did certain movements. So then I said, okay, I guess I'm not gonna be like, super jacked like I was before, but I still want to be strong enough. I want to be lean and I want to be well-rounded. I don't want to be injured, because I can't afford it. And so I started just training smarter.
And that's, I think, the first step, I would say, if we were to go back in time.
Now, before we move on to what we would actually do different and give advice, again, I want to emphasize that we weren't like the normal Joe Schmo regular person who just started working out and because...
Or like we were out of shape and, I have to go work out because I'm out of shape. It was never that.
Yeah, like one thing I didn't mention in this whole history is that I did mention I was going to school, so I was learning like the right way, and I was getting certified as a trainer. So that's already an advantage. But then I was also going to workshops. I would do all this kind of continued education stuff that I was learning from really qualified people. It wasn't like I was just going to the gym and doing whatever, which is what I think 99% of people do. They just go to the gym with their buddy who knows how to lift, supposedly, and they do chest day and back day, and like that's their entire history. They don't like really learn. They don't go to workshops. That's only like something that trainers do.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that as many mistakes as we made, we were still ahead of the curve. Like we knew more or less what we were doing.
And I want to preface that even more by saying we weren't the type that, hey, you graduated high school and now, oh, I'm going to start becoming a trainer. I'm going to go to these workshops. No, it was basketball every day, football every day, swimming. Like we were doing something active every single day. So it's not like you just jumped from being a couch potato to, oh, I'm going to start my fitness journey.
We never like let ourselves go.
So I think that's a big difference between somebody that is just starting or like, you know, the chubby kid that, hey, I want to start working out because I'm not comfortable with my body. It was never that. So this is coming from our perspective, which I think is a little different.
For sure. And the disadvantage to that, to never letting yourself go, is we didn't have to worry about nutrition. Let's face it. We really didn't.
Yeah.
Like, did we diet in our 20s?
I ate a Frosty every single night.
Okay. That's a good fun fact.
A large chocolate Frosty every
I
single
wasn't quite as
perverse.
didn't have that, but
Taco Bell and chocolate
but I
Frosty
really
every
just
night.
pretty much ate our mom's cooking,
Yeah.
Cuban food. Maybe I would eat a little more protein, and then I think I started having protein shakes at one point, but that's literally it.
Yeah.
Pre-workout, but I didn't count macros. I didn't do
No.
a bulking and cutting phase, and I had, I was like 6% body fat, and didn't really have to worry. But why? Because you never stopped. And it's like we always say in this podcast, the best way to like stay fit is just never stop working out.
The secret is don't stop working out.
So somebody else that has a different origin story, they would have to learn all about nutrition. Oh, calorie deficit, macros,
Someone who
protein
has an
intake.
unhealthy food obsession.
Because guess what? If you're 40 pounds overweight, you're not going to just magically transform your body without focusing on nutrition.
And it's going to be much harder.
Yeah. So with that out of the way, let's start actually what we would do different, the whole point of this podcast. All right.
Let's go back in time. Let's go back in time. Ready, set, go. I would say the first step to take, especially if you're completely brand new, is to seek out a knowledgeable coach or a trainer. And I say knowledgeable, I don't mean go to 24-hour fitness or Planet Fitness and get an 18-year-old who's watching Sports Center and talking to his girlfriend on the phone while he's training you. I mean a qualified.
Real story.
Yeah, these are
True
real people.
story.
I mean somebody that's knowledgeable, that's going to help you avoid all these years of trial and error that we had, that's going to guide you in the right direction right off the bat.
It's like when they say, like in the business world, they'll say like there's a few ways to learn about business. You can either try, just go out and not know what you're doing. And that is a strategy, or consult with some sort of business coach or have a mentor or have some sort of person that's already a few levels above you that can just kind of tell you, hey, here's what you can do. Hey, here's a tip. Here's some advice. You can save yourself so much time by consulting with somebody who has the experience and knows what they're doing.
Yep.
And the thing is, most people listening, like we're giving advice to people who aren't trainers, right? We're assuming that you're not a trainer. We were already going down that path of being trainers. But if you're not a trainer, then you have even like, you don't really know what you're doing. You have no business knowing what you're doing. So go and talk to somebody and it's going to guide you in the right direction. I'll give you an example. I've trained a lot of kids. I was like 17, 18, when I was in my 20s or even now. And I saved them so much time because the gains that they saw in 3-5 months is gains that I know for a fact they wouldn't have seen for a few years of training of like trial and error.
And we know how important that beginning is. Like if you don't take advantage of that, those first few months when you're just kickstarting, man, you can make some crazy gains if you're heading in the right direction, or you can make a lot of mistakes.
Mediocre gains.
Or maybe hurt yourself.
Yep. Or learn the wrong way to do things and then it's harder to change.
Yep.
When we take people that are just learning from scratch, we teach them the right technique from the beginning, and now that opens up a great foundation for them to just make huge gains, as opposed to taking some meathead that's been working out wrong for 20 years, and it's like, okay, dude, you've been doing this wrong for your whole life. Like, let me try to change it. It's going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah, it's a blank canvas approach. It's much easier to paint on a blank canvas than it is to fix a painting that's been
so
butchered.
That's the advice, is consult with an expert. So how would you even go about finding this professional? Who are we even talking about here?
Easy. You go on Instagram, whoever has the most followers or the biggest butt, follow them blindly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
And that's,
guys,
thanks for another episode of the Be Fit. No, but seriously, I don't want to say it's easy because it's not. There's a lot of people selling you false promises and about a lot of BS. So we're gonna give you a list of red flags of things you should avoid when seeking out your hopefully fitness professional. I think the first red flag is any influencer that's trying to push a trendy program or somebody you see it's like hopping from thing to thing. We talked about it pretty recently. The bodybuilder that became vegan. That's just an example, but it's somebody that's always trying to push you the next big thing, quote unquote. That's automatically a no for me. Like, don't even follow that person, because we know fitness is about the basics, and fitness is sometimes not that sexy. Sometimes fitness is about this is what's right, and this is what you got to do, and it's not, oh, try this new thing because it's like it's what's on and what's popping on TikTok.
Yeah, a good rule of thumb with that is that the top, let's say 100 coaches in the world, like actual good coaches, all say very similar things. There's not one of them or two that are like this revolutionary new thing that you have to try. If you see that person who probably has a lot of followers on Instagram, that's a red flag right there, because are all these coaches that have been in the trenches doing it, people like us that have been doing it for 20 years, saying similar things, and then here's this guy promising you that no, I got the real solution, the new thing, the sexy thing, try this. This is what really got me this body. It's like, red flag. That's probably not true.
The shake weight.
Exactly. Then there's a whole epidemic of this online, which is the trainer, the online trainer with no actual real life experience. The kid
clients.
that was in shape, that was fit, has a good body, and now they're a trainer because they like the idea of working from their laptop as opposed to going in a gym and training people. Red flag. Avoid that person like the plague. You don't really become a good trainer until you're in person with somebody, talking to them, watching them, giving them feedback in real time. So there is no such thing as a good online coach who hasn't worked with people.
Yeah, and that's because training, let's be honest, it's 50% of the exercise knowledge and 50% people skills. Listening to somebody, understanding what makes them tick,
Understanding their problems.
how they're sleeping, like all these things are so important. Gauging how they're feeling that day. Like, you're not gonna get online and be like, do this program. Like, no, man, I slept 3 hours yesterday. It's not that easy.
And if you work with 500 people in real life, you can start to see common problems, right? Like, okay, I know that most people, when they start squatting, they start doing this.
Yeah.
Or I know that a common problem, if I program the deadlift, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the problems because I'm seeing it constantly. Whereas, how are you even going to give feedback to somebody? Are you going to ask them to record every single exercise and send it back to you? It just doesn't. And then you can't give them like real-time feedback, so it just doesn't work.
Even more nuanced things, like every time we train, like nurses, for example, I know that days that you work, your sleep schedule's messed up, you're not eating, you're on your feet all day. So all these little things factor into what makes a person able, like what affects their performance in the gym. So how are you gonna know that, like you said, if you're behind the laptop? Exactly. And also, those are the first guys to comment on the more knowledgeable trainers on their posts, be like, you're being a little put because what do you mean you shouldn't deadlift heavy? Like, blah, blah, blah. Look at my physique. Like, all right, dude, calm down. Like, you.
Yeah, they don't have, so training a bunch of different people
from
all walks of life, that humbles you, right? When we were in our 20s, back, the stories that we told, I was a little bit of the type that, no excuses, anyone could do it. Oh, why don't you just do this? And then the more you work with people, the more you realize, some people, it doesn't feel good when they deadlift with a barbell.
Yeah.
For some people, the sad reality is, you may never actually do a freestanding pull-up. It might be banded for a long time because of whatever your circumstances are. It doesn't matter, but that only came because I worked with so many people. I wouldn't have been able to, I would have been a mediocre online coach at 22.
Yep.
Let's just say that.
So another red flag, which is something these guys do, that's why I want to bring it up now, is the cookie cutter program. Like, these guys are so guilty of, hey, you like my physique? Here's a program. Like, there's no, like, how are you gonna send out a program to the masses when we know how different everybody is? Like, little things like your femur length being different. How are you gonna tell me a proper deadlift technique if I have a different anatomy than you? Like, these little micro things, or if I have different goals than you.
Yeah, or even if you're working with somebody young, what if they had 2 ACL surgeries at
heart
17
surgery, heart surgery.
Yeah, because they were soccer players. So again, it's just, I think we've made our point with that. But on that same, we're still talking about red flags here. On that same token, this is a mistake to avoid. And it's something that I feel like it's how most people learn how to exercise, is taking advice from your buddy or your friend who exercises and is fit. And it's like, wow, look at their physique. They must know what they're doing. Yeah. Let me just go with them to Planet Fitness and just follow them along. You know what this happens a lot to? I know some people are going to relate. husbands training their wives or
Oof.
like boyfriends training their girlfriends.
Don't do
Come
it.
with me, girl. Let's do 8 sets of chest. It's
do
like, A, you may not want to do the same program or you have to, and B, the relationship, like it tends to not work out when it comes to like telling your significant other what
God,
to do
no.
and the dynamics of being in the gym together. So it just doesn't really work. And then of course, that person is not a qualified professional. The whole point of this tip is consult a professional. Just because somebody's been working out for 8 years on their own doesn't make them qualified to train you.
Yep, and that goes along with that Cuban guy at the gym teaching you, oh, eso no estás así, mira, you gotta deadlift like this. True story.
know what
we
you're gonna say.
saw a bunch of kids, they were like 17, 16, learning how to deadlift. They were putting a lot of weight on the bar.
A lot.
It's like 200 something pounds, a lot, for somebody new. And this Cuban guy comes up to me, he's like, no. You guys are doing it all wrong. You gotta do it like this. This is a back exercise, so you gotta round it on his back. I've been working out for 40 years, and we're just watching. We're not the type to go up to me like, hey, no, that's wrong, because we know people don't like that. So we're just watching from afar like, this guy's gonna break those kids' backs. And that happens more often than not. People are giving unsolicited advice, especially men to females, unfortunately.
A good rule of thumb is if somebody feels like they need to go and
They
give
have
you
that
advice,
bravado.
they are usually not the qualified person. From my experience, the qualified person just kind of sticks to their own. If you ask me for advice, I'll give you advice, but I'm not going to be going around the gym correcting everyone's form. First of all, if I did that, I'd be there all day. If you go to a
Plus, it would
membership
be a
gym,
nightmare.
yeah, but that's another thing that, another red flag, which is like, oh, the guy at the gym that's helping me out,
And if he's helping out women, run. Run.
Do I say this or not? It's gonna piss somebody off.
Piss him off.
Okay, last red flag is fake coaches. What do I mean by that? There are clever companies who have started to market themselves and call themselves things like, I think I remember Herbalife did it, Beachbody has done it, where it's like, you guys are certified health coaches, a term they made up with no qualifications, and it's just like, that just means I'm making money off of you, so you're a health coach. Congratulations to all your friends.
That just means you're a woman in her mid-40s training her friends.
Oh, you're gonna go there?
That's all of them.
Go there?
All right, fine. You're a Venezuelan guy in his late 30s
Okay, but
teaching his friends.
I'm sorry, please, people, look up somebody's qualifications. If somebody calls himself a health coach or a nutritionist and that, what exactly do you mean by that? Where's your certification from? Do you have any type of collegiate experience whatsoever or academic experience? Like, who have you worked with? And please don't make the biggest mistake, which is that person looks good, so they must know what they're talking about.
Podcast guest.
Second thing that we would advise that we had to go back in time, or somebody who's just starting, would be getting crystal clear on your goals, defining your goals clearly.
And I think what you mean by that is not saying something so vague like, I just want to be fit. That's fine and dandy. It's okay to want to be fit.
That's why we have this name.
Yeah, be fit. But there's no direction in that. There's no end goal. There's not even like a halfway goal. I feel like you got to have something way more definitive than that.
Yeah, it's way too vague. You'd be surprised how many people, even when they consult a trainer, we get calls all the time, and when I ask them about their goals, which is the first thing that I do, you'd be surprised how many people don't have like an actual specific goal in mind. They just have this vague idea that I want to be more fit. And what's the problem with that?
I'm gonna go against you and say I don't think that they don't have a goal. I just don't think they're aware of it, or they can't like materialize it into words. Like, we all have somewhere we want to be. Whether you're aware enough to say it or not is a different story. But I think all these people that say, I want to be fit, have something else in mind. They're just, like I said, they're not aware of it.
I guess, or maybe they don't realize the importance of being specific about it. That's like me saying, I want to make more money. Well, how much? If I give you an extra $2, that's more money.
That's not bad.
$2
what, an hour?
And it's funny with the whole making money thing, and I was big into the self-help thing, so I know all about this too. The first thing they tell you is set a clear intention and how much money. What are you talking about
I want to
here?
have 3 more clients, or like I want to make
I want to make this much money
a
per month.
Yeah.
Put a number to it. That way you can track it. It's the same with working out. Here's the biggest problem with being vague is that, let's say you come to me for advice, and I'm your trainer.
Hi,
hello, sir.
Nice to meet you. I want to be fit.
Depending on what you tell me, your prescription is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Like if you tell me my goal is to run a marathon, okay, here's your prescription. But if you tell me I want to jump on a bodybuilding stage, Give me that plan. You're
Yeah.
doing a completely different plan. If you
Yeah.
tell me I want to just be fit enough to like pick up my kids, run after them, not feel winded,
Yeah.
more kind of a general well-roundedness, here's the other program. Quick tangent. I just had to, I changed my wife's program because as you all know, we had 2 small children. She has a very busy schedule. She's working out from home.
Congrats.
And I told her, look, this may not be the time in your life to be the strongest you can ever possibly be. And we might have to shift over to a more generalized little bit of everything and just be more well-rounded because we can get a lot more done in less time, right? What I mean by that is if you want to be the strongest you can possibly be, you need 4 or 5 days a week of strength
Doing
training,
splits, yeah.
3 minutes of rest in between.
Yeah.
She wants to get her workout in 32 minutes or
So
whatever.
You got to do 3 days of full body or total body.
You gotta
or something.
you gotta
Yeah.
switch the program up, right? So, but I'm very intentional about that. The workouts are all written like that. So my whole point being that the more specific you are about what the goal is, the more you can actually stick to one plan that's gonna get you that goal. Because I'm sorry, contrary to what many people believe, you can't do it all at once. You can't be the biggest and leanest and strongest and also best at cardio. It's not gonna happen. You can do a few of them, but you can't be excellent at
A
any
jack
of
of
them.
all trades. I mean, yeah, like you said, you could be good at all of them, but especially if you're just starting off.
Something's gotta give.
We're talking about the person that's just starting off. So you're already not going to be the strongest and the fastest, all this stuff. So choose your battles. Like, and I think that's what you mean with be specific is choose what you want to do. A perfect example is like, do you want to be back in the day? Like, do you want to be a good guy with a sword or do you want to be a guy with a bow? You're not going to be both.
You can't be both, and you can't just have a bunch of weapons on you when you don't know how to use them.
Exactly.
And the other thing I would say about that is that this second tip goes along with the first tip because, for example, if I'm a mother of 3 that just wants to get her body back or whatever, but I only have limited time because I have 3 kids, am I gonna go to the 19-year-old bodybuilding male coach? No, I'm probably gonna go with the expert that specializes in like parents, busy moms.
Yeah.
I understand your struggles. I've created this optimized workout specifically for moms. I know how hard it is. I know that you only have a few dumbbells at home.
Based on
I'm
your-
not that kid
your
that's gonna
busy
tell you,
schedule,
no
yeah.
excuses, lady.
Yeah.
You're gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and
Yeah.
do 5 days a week. So that's what I mean by getting specific. And then, for example, if I wanted to run a marathon, I would go with our good friend,
Danny.
Dr. Danny, because
Yeah.
she's a marathon. She prepares people for marathon. She's a running coach. She's
Yeah.
a physical therapist. But if I wanted to do a bodybuilding show, I would go with somebody else who's a bodybuilding expert.
Yeah.
I need to know what my goal is first.
Exactly. Let's go to step 3 now. Let's segue from that.
Let's.
I think this one is important, and people really undersell it. They kind of just go to the gym and go through the motions. I think it's important to learn somewhat, at least dip your toe in the exercise physiology and anatomy world.
Absolutely.
And why
Love
is that?
this one. We said it on this podcast all the time, but the best way to prevent falling for certain myths or a bad program is to arm yourself with some sort of knowledge, because it's hard to get duped when you actually know what you're talking about, right? Or you at least know some basic principles.
And if you know things, you're more likely to ask questions. What muscle am I activating here? What am I trying to, engage? That's a different approach.
Or like, why should I rest 2 minutes instead of 30 seconds?
Curiosity
If
is
your
good.
coach can answer that, you got a good coach.
And if you
I'm
cannot,
gonna put it that way. And I'm gonna also say that 75% of coaches can't answer that. Especially the glorified cheerleaders that pass for coaches these days.
oh, not calling out any companies.
Anywho, this doesn't have to be as daunting as it might seem. Like, what do you mean learn anatomy and physiology? That's like, I'm an accountant. I don't have the time to go do that. But it's just the simple, like, these days you could just ask ChatGPT or read like a book that's like tried and true, where you could just learn, all you need to learn is the principles. Because once you learn the principles of how things work, then you can go in so many different ways, but at least you know the foundation, right? And if somebody tries to sell
You got
you
a good
something
BS
that,
meter too.
exactly, if somebody tries to sell you something that has nothing to do with the principles, right? Like if you know a principle would be the way that a muscle gets stronger is that you give it enough resistance through its full range of motion that little by little you start increasing the resistance and the muscle has to make adaptations, right?
Tear and rebuild.
exactly.
And you need rest to recover.
If somebody sells me that, I don't have to do that. I could just put these electrodes or take
Here we
this
go again.
pill, and you don't have to work out. Your muscles don't have to go through that. I already know they're full of, so because I understand how the body works. I understand, what's needed to create an adaptation. And by adaptation, it just means the results that you want to see.
Yeah.
If somebody tries to sell me that I can get away with not doing a calorie deficit and I can still lose fat, I know they're
You're on
lying.
Ozempic.
You know,
Oh.
it's like, here, try. Well, with Ozempic, the reason you lose weight is because
you
you're in a
don't.
calorie
You're
deficit.
not hungry.
Right? So again, if you know the principle of calorie deficit, I can take the 20 most popular diets and tell you why they all work. And I love when like good coaches like Biolane, they do that. They distill everything into, here's how keto works,
Yeah,
calorie
calorie
deficit.
deficit.
Here's how the Mediterranean diet works, calorie deficit. Here's how
Yeah.
these are, calorie deficit. It all boils down to the principle.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say that if you arm yourself with that knowledge, basic knowledge, and by the way, it leads into the first tip. If you talk to a good trainer and you actually ask questions, which a lot of people don't do, sadly, during the session, why are we doing this? Why'd you put these two exercises together? Oh, what kind of phase are we going into? And you'll learn and you'll arm yourself with that knowledge. And our people, I'm proud to say, they say it all the time. They'll go to like another gym or they'll go to one of these little franchises and be like, man, they were doing everything wrong.
It was a disaster.
The coach didn't know how to correct them. I saw people, I was like scared for them. I knew that I know better because I've worked with real trainers.
That's something we've said here since day one. It's something we say to people when they come in the door. If you want to stay training with us forever, that's awesome, amazing. But if you're ready to go out into the real world and do it yourself, we want you to be armed with that knowledge.
And you already kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah, and in this same vein of avoiding the BS and all that, and talking to the good trainer, that first tip is you like you said earlier, these pills and things you take. A bad trainer is going to try to sell you like, oh, I have these supplements that you can try to take, and look, it's going to help you burn belly fat. Your BS meter should already be like, ding, 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 this guy's full of it.
Yep.
So this is such an important step because, like you said, you filter out immediately all that BS. You know what you're doing to an extent. You know what's wrong at least. And you know when a trainer or somebody's trying to like dupe you.
Exactly. And here's some examples of stuff that we maybe fell for in the beginning that if we had to go back, we would change, which would be more is always better, right? Like the more you train, more volume, 75 hard, 2 workouts a day. Ridiculous. You know, the more you do, the better it is. Now, sometimes I'll blow people's mind by saying I could give you better results with a 3-day-a-week program and a good diet than a 6-day-a-week program where you're in the gym for 90 minutes at a time. Like really, I feel confident enough to say that. And there's a lot of research to prove that. Again, things that I say are backed by evidence, right? So that's something that a lot of beginners might think, no, I'm not losing enough weight. I gotta go harder. I gotta do more. Let me lose some sleep and wake up at 4 a.m. so that I could do an extra workout. And sometimes it's like, really, you're gonna do 2 strength training workouts a day?
Yeah, you didn't even recover properly.
If you sleep more, you'll get better results.
There's that goes back to, I think the first the first red flag that we talked about is the bad trainer, or anybody that tries to give you advice. They're like, and I say here all the time, it's like, I was at the gym 2 hours yesterday. I was like, oh really? You're a moron, dude. Good for you, man.
Unless you're training for
unless you're doing bodybuilding
Ironman.
or doing an Ironman or something very niche,
Yeah.
which is not what we're talking about. We're talking about general strength training.
Yep.
Congrats, you wasted an hour of your day. Unless you're like training for an hour and then you're in the sauna. Something like that is obviously a different story. But if you're working out actively, like on machines or in dumbbells
it's the same
for 2 hours, what the hell were you doing?
It's the same as when I hear people say, oh yeah, you know, I finished my workout with a 20-minute ab circuit. And I'm just like, what if I told you that I had a 6-pack for a decade and I barely did any ab
didn't do a
exercises?
crunch.
Like, you can do things better. You can do things more efficiently. And at the end of the day, we're all pressed for time. Why would you want to waste time? And that's what I think the biggest pro of hiring a good coach is, that I'm not going to waste your time.
Yeah.
When you're here with me for an hour, I tell my clients all the time, you are only doing the most efficient things. I don't have time to waste with you. I only have you for 2 hours of the week or 3. So you learn how to work out like that. Guess what? You don't have to do, back to my wife's program. She's doing 3 days a week of strength training, 2 days of cardio. Her workouts are only like 35 minutes. You're going to see the results. She's getting crazy gains because her workouts are so efficient.
Yep, they're efficient. They're planned. She has a set goal.
Exactly.
All of these things that we talked about.
Yep.
The Pickle King.
The pickle.
And it's not because he
why
plays
they- yeah.
pickleball.
I couldn't even demonstrate frog pumps today. I had to
Vulgar.
make somebody else demonstrate it.
Vulgar.
Okay, and the last tip is something that I definitely messed up when I was just starting. Maybe not you because you're a professional sleeper, which is focusing on recovery, rest and recovery. That's something that when you're 22 and you're working out, yes, but you're also partying on the weekends and you're going to school and you're doing late nights and let's be honest, your body can handle it because you're young. When you're young, you can basically beat yourself up and your body is good at recovering. But as you get older, that's just not a thing. And you could always argue that as good as my gains were at 22, they could have been better if I was actually prioritizing recovery. And I don't just mean sleep. I mean just any type of modality, whether it's myofascial release or mobility work,
Or
taking
even
naps,
taking a day off.
taking a day off. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I would be the type that, like, even if I had a late night, we scheduled the workout for Saturday, we're working out on Saturday.
Yeah,
So
hungover, smelling like tequila.
doesn't matter, we're doing it.
We're doing it, and you might suffer for it. Your
Yeah.
gains might suffer. That might be the day you hurt yourself, you do something wrong.
Exactly.
That's why I believe in sleeping and excuses. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, the important thing is that sleep is where you make your gains.
Yeah, that's
what
where the
you
body
have to
rebuilds
realize.
itself. That's
Exactly.
what people don't notice.
So you have to treat sleep as an important part of your regimen. It is an important part of your fitness routine, and it's something that I feel like a lot of people in this day and age, they just neglect that. And we've talked about this ad nauseum about sleep and bedtime routine and how the smartphones and watching TV at night and all this other stuff messes with our sleep.
Yeah.
But this is one that I think that most people, could work on as they're starting their journey. And I would tell myself that as I was starting.
Definitely. So we've talked about everything that we feel is important for somebody that's beginning an exercise program, somebody starting new. So now we're gonna hit you with a rapid fire of things that you should avoid. Okay, so we're just gonna bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, and
fire
it's
them back
still
and
things
forth.
that we would have done differently, even though we actually nailed some of these.
Yeah, but sometimes you just get lucky.
Lucky or you're smart.
You think I heard
I'm
that?
like really smelling my own farts this episode. Number one, we already talked about it briefly, not program hopping.
Yeah.
That is a huge mistake. The pros, the real serious strength athletes or just fitness enthusiasts, they follow a program. They're not messing around going to the gym like, ooh, what do I do? Do I do my influencer workout thing? No. They know what they're doing. For the next 6 weeks, they know what they're doing. You have to give a program time to give you the results, okay?
But also that goes with our first red flag. Make sure the program is from a qualified professional. You don't want to be wasting 8 weeks doing some BS program.
100%.
Okay, next one.
100%.
Keep it rapid
All right.
and keep it firing.
Not getting caught up in the latest trends. Like we said, foundations, principles over everything else.
Keep it
Run it
simple.
through
I think
the BS filter.
That's such an important one. Just keep it simple.
Keep it simple and stick to what works. There's a reason why the best strength coaches in the world kind of work out. I'm going to, again, compliment ourselves. We do the same basic exercise how many, you do pull-ups,
much
you do
variety?
rows.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of variety. Why? Because we know that those things work. So I'm not going to do a stand on the Bosu on one leg while trying to row. That'd be a complete waste of time when I know that I can get more gains by doing a simple supported single arm row.
With proper form.
There's nothing wrong with that. And as a matter of fact, that gives you the best bang for your buck. So skip the trends. Another one, avoiding ego lifting. This is something that we definitely made this mistake growing up, is that, your ego, especially as a 20-year-old male, is up there,
important.
and it's like, okay, the guy next to me is putting up 225 on that bar, put 225 on there. Forget the warm-up, like, let's just go straight into
Torn
it.
pectoral.
I was actually a little bit smarter than that because I was always a little more conservative, and I always was a stickler for form. Like, I prided myself on, I guess because I'm like, that's just my personality.
Yep.
I like to see things like,
I was going to say, that's where we very heavily, it was like my first set, grab two 45 plates, I want to do chin-ups. And you're like, dude, you're not going to warm up?
warm up a little bit,
Yeah.
like go through the full range of motion.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they're going there and half repping, where it's like, leave your ego at the door and just learn how to do things correctly. Who cares how much you lift? I know that people love those metrics, but at the end of the day, you have to do it right, and you want to avoid injury. So just do that. Quality over weight. Last one would be not being overly reliant on like supplements and all the little things that should be just like cherry on top.
The lion's mane?
And working more on the things that do work, that give you a lot of bang for your buck. Like if
Sleep,
somebody...
nutrition, exercise.
Exactly. If somebody tries to sell you, like when you consult with them, and there's sadly a lot of nutritionists and people that do this, it's like, all right, you consult with me, fantastic. So here's your stack of supplements. It's $1,200. You're going to take 18 pills in the morning, 2 shakes in the afternoon. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? There's people there making crazy gains that don't even drink a protein shake.
Yeah.
So again, understand what the foundations are, and the foundations is not supplement. Supplement, if you were to make a pyramid, supplement is all the way on top. That's where people have everything else dialed in. So there we go. I don't think there's anything else that I would add to that.
So those are a few things that we recommend if you're just starting your fitness journey that you focus on. It's something we definitely would have focused on. And like Julian has been smelling his own farts all day. We did a lot of them properly, luckily, because we had some sort of education halfway along the way.
But odds are many people listening don't.
A lot of people don't. And like he said earlier, also, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So, do your due diligence. consult a professional that knows what they're talking about. I think that's the most important one because they're kind of going to give you those stepping stools to go in the right direction.
Yeah, they're gonna have you skip a bunch of steps that if you had to just bump your head against the wall for years, like many people do.
Yep.
But that being said, if you are the type that did bump your head for many years, but has been learning and slowly getting more optimized, then kudos to you. That's great.
Yeah, that's something that we like to encourage a lot is the people that have tried it and they stuck by it and they're, they might not have been doing it properly in the first place, but they got to where they want to be.
For sure. And again, you learn from your mistakes, so no regrets.
And guess what? Consistency is the missing puzzle piece. It's what's gonna do it for you. So
I was telling Karina yesterday that even if you do everything wrong, but you're consistent, you can make crazy gains. And there was somebody that I saw the other day that lost an insane amount of weight. And then I see their workouts on Instagram and I'm thinking, I'm sadly like, this is crap. It's garbage. But who am I to argue with this guy? He lost 100-something pounds and maybe now he'll start to learn a better way to do things, but he still lost 100 pounds. So
I say it all the time. If you consistently run up and down the stairs, you're going to see results.
For sure. It's actually quite simple. But anyway, I digress.
Guys, thanks for joining us for another episode of the
Fit Brothers Podcast. We're very good at the echo thing, I must say.
An illusion, Michael.